Talk, the home where the talking is good. It's your boy, Cody,
Heyo.
Robert, the other guy. I said his name. I know what's going on. And Craig, that other guy. Here we are. Tiny table, big room.
Wait,
You know
whose
I-
name did you say? My name?
Your
You
name.
don't usually say my
I don't
name?
normally say your name.
Say my name.
You're just the other guy.
Maybe I do say other
Destiny's
guy.
Child.
No,
Robert
you don't.
sometimes. Or usually I just say it Robert or Cody and the other guy.
I don't know what you say. I don't pay
You're the
attention.
other guy.
I am the other guy.
I don't pay attention.
a-
I just wait until I'm called upon.
That's it. When someone's like, give your input now, and then I
then it
start
goes.
talking,
Blech.
and then I go for the whole pod.
It's like in a Zoom meeting where you can just raise your hand.
Can you in a Zoom meeting?
You can.
It's like a little.
It's like an emoji
option, yeah, just
situation.
like,
Oh, that's amazing.
I have something
But
to
it
say.
pops you at the
I got
top,
something to
and
say.
so everyone can see you.
Oh,
It's great.
Call on me.
Call
I
on
have
me.
something to say.
That's so crazy. It's like, wow, technology.
We didn't really have to
Wow.
experience that much because we came. We
Yeah.
were here. We didn't
Yeah,
have
yeah,
to
yeah,
meet
yeah.
via Zoom very often. The rest of the world had to get used to that. Yeah, we powered through.
Yeah, I'm on
Crazy
Zoom a lot,
times.
so
Are you?
What?
yeah.
For like work and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't Zoom around here. We we FaceTime. What?
I mean,
Like if I on a video call someone, I'm not going to Zoom. I'm going to FaceTime.
yeah.
Yeah, if we're going to have a meeting, we're FaceTiming. We're going to do like a whole network of FaceTime people.
If I could go back in time, I would invest
If I could go
all
back
of my
in
money,
time.
every last cent, into Zoom or toilet paper.
Dang.
Like about a month or two before the pandemic, that's what I would invest all of my money into.
I feel like investing in toilet paper is
And Bitcoin.
You can invest in toilet paper right now. There's always a need for it. It
Yeah.
will never. You will. There will. It's one of the things that people have to buy.
It is true. It is true.
So it's like if you're going to invest in anything, I mean, if you had to choose, like invest in Reese's or invest in toilet paper, I would choose toilet paper because people want Reese's. They have to have toilet paper. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they don't have to, but they have to have it.
They need it.
And we all.
You
need
should
it.
have it. I hope so.
Oh my gosh,
We're in a weird place.
that is tough. Go with the three seashells.
Man.
What?
What?
Okay. I guess you guys never seen that movie.
No, the three seashells.
Yeah, it's I forget the name of the Demolition Man with Wesley Snipes and Sylvester Stallone came out like in the late 90s, and they decided that toilet paper was bad for humanity, so you just had three seashells in the bathroom that you had to use to.
Seashells?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
I don't know how you use
terrible.
it. Yeah. So, anyways,
Interesting.
good stuff.
Yeah.
And all restaurants went out because they were deemed unhealthy and bad for you, except for Taco Bell. It was the one restaurant that
Wow.
was the one restaurant that made it so good.
Interesting.
Sandra Bullock was in that movie too.
Oh, Sandy.
A classic.
Yeah, old Sandy.
Old Sandy.
Yeah.
I was probably 9 years old if it was like late 90s. So
Probably.
that's probably why I didn't see it.
It was one of
Yeah,
those
6,
movies
7.
that I would have a sleepover at friend's house. Shout out Blaine Gall. But in case you're watching, but his parents would always have movies, and we didn't watch rated R movies. And Demolition Man is very much rated R, and so that's where I learned a lot of stuff. You know, that's where I
Learned a
watched
lot of things.
Demolition Man.
I watched Die Hard. I watched Demolition Man. I watched all sorts of those movies at Blaine's house. So, Mom, if you're watching,
It's her fault.
so
Yikes.
yeah. But Blaine's dad, not that I'm going into too much detail, Blaine Sr., he was the one that put butter in the kid's hand that the firework blew in half. Oh, yeah. So
Butter makes everything better.
it does. More better, more butter. So shout out. God rest his soul.
That all tracks.
Oh, man.
For
It
sure.
all tracks. He also, so like their house was here and this other kid's house was here. These kids that were having a party one night, they were in a grade above ours, and they decided that they were going to attack us with water balloons because Blaine and I were out here. And so they came over and they attacked us with water balloons. And you got to think Colorado, this is not like subdivision. Like there's land in between. And so like
It's a journey.
yeah, we went into his house and his dad was like, you got to go get them. And so he's like, we're making water balloons. And so he put mustard and ketchup in water balloons and filled them with water. And then Blaine and I went and he like face painted. I mean, we were full like Commando City. And like we belly crawled over to where they were having this campfire. And like we had these water balloons with mustard and ketchup. And we just pew, pew, pew. And then it was so amazing. We ran away from these kids. And there was like this little... it was like a dry riverbed, but it wasn't deep. And we knew they were chasing after us. So we jumped in that sucker and we laid down just like coffin status still. And they had flashlights and they were standing. Dude, I'm telling you, like they're right at the brim. I'm laying down. I could see these
This
kids.
is like movie status
I
right
can
now.
see these kids. What was so funny though is like we're laying at their feet, and they're like, "Oh, there's one. I see him over there." And they're like saying they see us, and we're laying right at their feet. I'm doing everything I can not to crack up. I remember this night because I broke his door handle because eventually we just jumped up out of this ditch and took off running to the house, and I slammed the door behind me, and it broke the door handle. I was like, "Bro, this is your fault. You sent me out there with water balloons and mustard, so it's kind of on you." Good time.
Man.
We call it the Wild Wild West.
Chewie.
Yeah.
Another good movie.
The Wild Wild West. Will
Hey,
Smith.
Will
Hey!
My
It was all right,
goodness.
actually.
Anyways, so that's my story. That was story time with Papa Rob.
Papa Rob. Papa Rob.
Is that going to be your granddad name?
I don't know what we're going to tell the boys.
Are you going to... Hold on. I guess now that we're on this, because I am curious, did your parents decide their grandparent nickname, or did your first... I'm assuming your brother was the first one. He's the first one with children, right?
I don't know how it worked.
Did they decide? You don't know?
Yeah, just organically, grandma and grandpa.
Okay.
They don't have...
They're just one set?
Huh?
Is there only one set? Well, I guess.
This is awkward.
Just got the one.
I mean, you know, I didn't I meant like I'm assuming, you know, your brother's wife has mom and dad still around.
I don't...
You don't know?
They do, but I don't know what they told their kids to call
Oh,
them.
okay. You know,
Yeah, we're not
okay.
like that. You
Oh,
know what I
okay.
mean? It's kind of, you know. So I don't know.
Too personal. All right.
We-
So sorry.
I called my grandpa Papa and grandma was Nana. But I don't know how that happened. I don't
Yeah.
know if grandpa and grandma were like, "This is what they'll call us,"
Yeah,
or if
yeah,
my
yeah.
parents were like, I know my mom, like I have a cousin, his name's Dominic. She refused to respond to him unless he called her Aunt Marianne.
Oh, just like completely ignored him. Like,
Yeah,
as
if
like,
he called her Marianne, nope.
just
She wanted to make sure the
Who's
hierarchy
that?
was understood.
don't know
We're
her.
not friends here.
never heard of her.
We're not close. Like it
my
is
gosh.
Aunt Marianne. So,
That's so great.
Yeah, but
Oh,
what are you
man.
guys gonna do? What do you? Let's ask because I don't really. Yeah, let's share these.
I
Like,
mean-
what do you? How do you determine? Did your parents say this is what they're gonna call us, or did you and
Yeah.
Kai?
So, well, my parents, you know, my sister had kids before we did, so it kind of had already been established. I think my mom and my dad kind of preferred, like, she wanted to be Grammy and he wanted to be Granddad, and so like they just did their best to like make that be, and that's what it was.
Okay.
Kai's parents, you know, we were the first on their side to make them grandparents, so they had their request, and then it kind of just morphed into what it is. Like, her mom wanted to be Mimi, and that's what it is, but her dad wanted to be Pa, I think, but he ended up being
Hey, Pa.
somehow he ended up becoming Pop, and so that's who he is. So he's Pop. I don't know how, I think Broman
That's what I call
somehow
my dad.
did it, and then that's
Hey,
what it
Pops.
is. Yeah. So,
What are you guys gonna do?
have you had requests
Yeah.
or
What do
demands?
what do Lauren's
So great.
parents want? Demands.
Well, for Lauren's parents, so on her side, she has two sets of living grandparents. She has a nana and a papa, and then she has a mama and a pawpaw. And so
That's tough.
Paw,
How you
but
remember all
on
that?
Mama and Pawpaw, so that name has been passed down from like I think 3 generations at this point. So there was
Break it.
so Mama and Pawpaw right now, their parents were Big Mama and Big Pawpaw.
Oh.
So now Mama and Pawpaw as they exist today are becoming Big Mama and Big Pawpaw because
they get to become.
because they have grandchildren.
You've been
now.
promoted.
yeah.
And so
On that come
or
up.
they have great grandchildren now. So Angie wanted to be Gigi, which I was on board with. So great. And then Greg is going to be Pawpaw because that's been like passed down. So she's breaking the Mamaw situation.
Ooh, yikes.
She could be Lil Mama.
Outcast. She's gonna be an outcast.
And then
the
my
family's gonna get
mom-
rid of her.
I don't remember what my mom said she wanted to be. Initially, she wanted to be Nene, and I said absolutely not.
I
think
think when
I
you
think
win,
she was kidding,
but,
you win.
And then the name Peepaw got thrown around
Whoa.
on my side too, and I was like, no. And so
Yeah.
now
It's just gonna be
my
P.
stepdad is gonna be. I think he's just gonna be Papa,
Okay.
but it's spelled really close to Pawpaw, so that's gonna be fun, like
Yeah.
with stuff. But we'll figure it out.
I think
I
I'm more
grew
of a-
up with a papa and a nanny, and on the other side, I had a nana and a poppy.
Oh my god!
So it was
can't even keep it
yeah,
straight.
it was really
That's
like
tough.
nanny and papa, and then poppy and nana. So it was like just reversed.
So in the comment section, let us know what you call your grandparents or what you want your children to call your parents. I think Rachel and I are just more traditionalist. It's like, that's grandma, that's grandpa.
Yeah.
Easy, no confusion, because when Rachel's mom was alive, it was like, do you want to go to grandma's house? When my parents come or when we're FaceTiming, like I just FaceTime my parents, yay, they called me for my birthday, and both my boys were like, hey, grandpa, hey, grandma. So I think it's just more of
So they had
Normal.
2 grandmas.
huh?
So they had 2 grandmas,
Yeah.
essentially.
You don't have to worry about differentiating. It's just like, it's whatever.
It's just proximity.
The only time that
Whoever's
both
closer.
grandmas were in the same room was at our wedding, and children were not.
Yeah,
You
probably
know
doesn't
what I
matter.
mean? So
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and so yeah, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter. It never will matter. So.
Happy birthday.
Thanks!
How old are you?
44.
Whoa!
Yep. Father time comes for all of us. Yep. Still doing youth ministry. This is who we are.
Oh, man.
With that being said, I'm going to need a week off after camp. Because
Just a reset.
44 hits a little different, you know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
man.
So that 3 hours of sleep a night probably is going to be a little devastating.
I know I was talking to old Destiny last night at youth, and, we were just talking about, how it's going to be some late nights at camp, and she's like, it's fine. I'm used to it now. And I'm like, that's right. We need some youngins that don't worry about the late nights. They don't have, like, little kids that got to wake up and play with the next day. And so she's like, I'm your girl. I got you. And I was like,
I'm
yep.
your girl.
I was like, I need 3 days to recuperate from one day of
Honestly,
no
bro.
sleep.
Last year after camp, I was tired. I'm
took a minute.
hoping for more sleep this year at camp, to be honest. Like in a room that has AC.
Well, I'm not going to be on
nicer
an air mattress this year,
bunks.
so I'm hopeful that a regular bed will keep me alive.
Air mattress doesn't bother me, but I mean, air mattress might be more comfortable than these bunk mats.
Well, my air mattress would deflate throughout the night.
That's
So
tough.
I was on my air mattress at the beginning of the night, and around 2 a.m., my butt was on the floor, so I almost had like a weird, like, C situation where I was like, like concave.
we need to remember the fan. Don't let me forget. That was pivotal last year.
Fan was great.
That fan was great.
It's not on the
Add
list.
packing list. We need to take the fan from
Especially,
the drum
I was
cage.
like right next to it, and so
Yeah.
it just blew right into my little
Yeah.
bunk.
It's
And
like a
so
little
it was
sound
like-
machine too.
It was so
yes,
great.
sound machine. Well, last
Kept
year,
all the smells away, I'm sure.
Oh, golly, I'm so excited for that. I don't understand it. It's something about the biology. I know as soon as we walk into that bunkhouse,
biology.
it's going to be like stank.
It's like the pheromones are like, come out.
It, honestly,
This
bro.
is our territory.
Each one are trying to be the alpha. It's like just emitting.
Who can stink more?
Oh my gosh, so good. I'm
yikes.
so excited. I'm excited for camp. I really feel good. This is going to air after
Yeah,
we
I know.
get back, so we can say this and it won't be spoilers. Craig's going to be ministering one morning.
Whoop, whoop.
His wife's going to be ministering one morning. Ashley Mackin's going to be ministering one morning. I mean, it's going to be exciting. We're changing it up. We're doing things a little different, and I just have this overwhelming sense that it's going to be incredible.
It's gonna be pretty cool.
It's gonna be wild.
These are
gonna
some
be
last minute additions, but they're exciting last minute additions.
I just
feel
found
like.
out today.
You did just find out today. Are you nervous?
Just right now.
Plenty of
right
time.
now. Yeah, you got time. You got like a whole week
Oh, I do.
to
Yeah.
get with the Lord and figure
Well,
out
what's
what you're
cool
gonna
is
do.
the Lord talks to me, So
Oh.
I feel like, I mean, I
What's
didn't know I was
that
going to
like?
No, he
minister.
doesn't.
What?
I didn't know I was going to be ministering, but I mean, it's funny because like I made notes over the last 2 weeks. I feel like I've made notes about like things that like I might minister on this at some point.
Ooh,
And
that's
so-
cool. That is really cool, and it's amazing how God like works, because like last night when I got home after our praise and worship meeting, I pulled into the driveway and I felt this unction on the inside. And I think it's so important for all of us like to learn that, to respond to that. I felt this unction like pull the mirror in on my car. And I was like, I'm the last one home typically, and I'm the first one gone. So there's no reason to pull the mirror in. The car that parks in the garage is Rachel's car. The one in the street is my car. And so I was like, I'm going to be the first one gone in the morning. There's no reason to do this, but I just felt this unction on the inside to do it. So I was like, all right, I'll do it. So I pulled the mirror in. And then when we woke up this morning, Rachel was like, I got to run to Kroger to get a click list. And she doesn't like backing out of the garage when our car is there because the mirror. And I was like,
Yay!
So good.
I
heard.
obeyed.
But it's so interesting. Like, I think sometimes we don't realize like how concerned God is with every detail.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think sometimes we think he only is concerned about the big things, but
Yeah.
he's even concerned about like the small things. The small things, it brought me so much joy that when Rachel had to get up early to go get the click list, that I could still lay in bed because I didn't have to go out and like lots of times I'll back the car out of the garage for her. That's not a slight at her. She asked me to do it. She's fine. But especially if the mirrors are folded in, it just makes it that much easier. You got
Yeah.
that much more space to work with. You know what I mean? So I just got to lay there and I was just like celebrating in my head, like I heard from
Yeah.
God, you know,
No,
and it was
that's
just really
awesome.
cool. So, I mean, and we've been talking a lot about it at youth too. Honestly, like every time I minister, I've even mentioned it in big church, like God, when I say God spoke to me, because I do feel like some people abuse that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like they say that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I try, like, if I can be very aware of it. I'm not perfect at it, but I really try to like not say God said.
Yes, or
like,
God told me.
Yeah, like even like if I do feel that, like, because I just don't want to. If something were to go wrong, even after that, like I don't want someone to be like, "Well, did God say that?" And then
Yeah.
you like just went in your own direction, or what? Like I don't want to tarnish, you know, his voice to somebody else by
Gotcha.
my mistake. And so, unless I just feel like super confident, like I usually just try to say, I feel led to do this.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm supposed to do this. You know, obviously, if I'm ministering, it's a little bit different. But you know, just in like my personal, casual conversation, I rarely would be like, "Look, God says to do this," or
Yeah.
"God told me to tell you this." Like it's more of just I feel led to tell you this right now.
And even then, like, I remember, and like just bringing it kind of relevant to students, I felt led. Oh my gosh, I can't get my thoughts straight. In high school, I was dating this girl, and
Yep.
the Lord was telling me I needed to
Uh-oh.
break up with them. And so I learned the hard way never to say the Lord said. And so I told her, Lord told me to break up with you.
Oh no.
Her church attendance dropped.
Oh,
So,
man.
which is not something to laugh at. It's actually really sad. But it really did make a big difference in her.
Sure.
And it took her a little while. She came around and like she started coming back to church and everything, which is great. But I mean, for a time being, I mean, she was pretty upset because
Yeah.
it took her by surprise. I wasn't surprised because the Lord had been talking to me for like 2 weeks. But
But I feel like lots of people will use God as their scapegoat.
Sure.
absolutely.
Like I had a teenager, this is 18 years ago, and he was dating this girl, and he was like, I feel like God told me not to date anyone right now. And so I sat him down and I said, okay, listen, you told me that God said not to date anyone right now. So when you break up with this little girl, you better not be dating someone else next week.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not something that's going to happen. If God told you you're not supposed to date, then no more relationships, you know what I mean, until and I think he said while I'm in high school. And I was like, so you're not dating until you get done. Whatever the time frame
Yeah.
was, I don't remember what he
Sure.
said. And I just remember he was like, he wasn't really like freaked out by it, but I just wanted to let him know the weight that comes with this statement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There better not be another chica in your life 2 weeks from now, 3
Sure.
weeks from now, 4 weeks from now. Because if God said, then God said.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And one thing I've been doing is like giving the explanation on stage when I'm like, God spoke to me. I pause and then I say, now let me explain what that means. I had this subtle unction on the inside. It's not like God showed up, you know what I mean? And like this camera was on fire.
Robert!
Yes, exactly. Because I think that people think that's the way
Yeah.
it is. And they start to put like ministers in a class of their own.
Yeah.
Oh, he heard from God and God spoke and God said. No, it's just like this witness.
Yeah,
on
I would
the
dare to say
inside.
that an audible voice is an extreme rarity for most people to hear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think in the majorital sense, majorital, is that the right word? Sounds good.
That's an awesome word.
Majorital sense.
It's a word now. I'm
in the
taking that.
majorital sense,
The majority.
like you're saying, it's
Majorital.
a knowing, a leading. You feel it within. It's not an audible exterior voice.
Well, I feel like so that's amazing that you heard from God. And the thing is like we can all hear from God that way. We know Romans tells us
Sure.
that all the children of God are led by
Yeah.
the Spirit of God. And I think if we're looking for, like, if you have an Exodus chapter 3 type situation where there's this burning bush and this audible voice, like, low key, I don't want those because that
Yeah.
means hold on.
Right.
Like, Moses had it bad. You know what I'm saying? Like homie went through the ringer. Like, it was tough. And
Yeah.
I think he had to have that experience in God that really allowed him to go to war when things were really sideways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I kind of don't want those experiences where God shows up in like a fire and
Yeah.
speaks to me, because that means, jeez, I'm going to have to war a good warfare with this experience.
That,
you
or
know?
it feels like maybe you weren't listening in the
Oh,
quiet
gosh.
moment.
Yeah. So it's like
you had to
That's
take
true, too.
a loud public moment for you, like
The thunder.
Yeah, like I don't know, like I think there's been times where you're like, where you've mentioned where like if a prophet's coming in town to minister, it's like, Lord, you can tell me personally.
Yeah,
You don't need
yeah.
to tell me in front of anybody else. Like,
Yeah.
Lord, you can talk to me anytime
That's
you
it,
want.
man. That's it.
I don't need this outward public experience because I know your voice.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that anytime because I still believe in the gifts
For sure.
of ministry gifts that we see in Ephesians 4. So I believe that there's still prophet and
Yeah.
prophetess among us today. And when one of them comes to the church, I'm just like, yeah, I've been listening. I'll listen after. They can keep it to themselves, like just
You keep that to yourself.
there's 500 other people in this room that you can talk to. I'm not one of them. Just do your thing around me. But
So
I
great.
think that's something that, I want everybody to grow in their expectation of that God is ministering to us all the time.
Yeah.
Like with Craig, he was, even though you didn't know it was for when you're ministering next Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day it is that falls to you, you didn't know that it was going to be on that particular day. But look at how God was preparing you in advance by speaking to your heart. And just was he kind of just saying, like, bringing stuff out while you're reading scripture and you're like, oh, I need to study this? Or was it just kind of like you need to study this?
It's a little bit of a mixture of both. Like, even like just in listening back to podcasts, I know one of them came from just listening to our podcast back. And I don't remember, one of y'all said something and I was like, oh. And so I started like just meditating and praying on that. And then that came out. And then another time it's been just through reading the Bible. And it literally was just like, make note of that. Like, not this past Sunday, but it was this past Sunday. The Lord also like just brought something out and was like, write that down. And so, yeah, that's usually how it works. Like, I mean, I have not up to this point ministered other than one time.
Yeah.
So
Yee!
one time,
Woohoo!
this will be number 2.
But what's so cool is when we listen to that voice, it's like we're prepared for when that season gets here. Like, I bet you a lot of single people right now, God is ministering to them and leading them, whether they realize it or not, to do things that is preparing them for marriage. So when they get to that point of marriage, if they've been listening,
Yeah.
they're going to be ahead and prepared instead of behind and unprepared.
That's great.
It's amazing how God will do that. It's like even, with us and like what he's talking about, very rarely do I get down to the wire where it's like, oh my gosh, I got to get a message and I got to get it right now. God's been preparing me like all week long by little things popping up here and popping up there. Like what Craig was just, I need to take note of that. Oh, I need to find some scriptures about this. And it's like, he's preparing us. So when that moment shows up, we're ready. We're like what the Bible calls, we're instant in season and out of season. We're ready to go. And the reason we're ready to go is because God's been leading us all along, and we've been sensitive enough, to obey that and follow that so we can be prepared.
Yeah.
I know God had me do a lot of like crucifying my own flesh before I had children. And I think one reason he had me do that is because when you have children, I believe if you parent the right way, you're kind of laying your life down for them, just as you did for your marriage, because the Bible tells us to love our spouses as Christ loved the church. Well, how did he do that? He laid down his life for the church. And so even before Rachel and I got married, God was teaching me how to pull back Robert and crucify Robert's flesh, because when I get married, it's now about, our relationship and being a husband, a biblical husband to her that the Bible tells me I'm supposed to be. And I can't do that if I'm always getting my way when I want it, how I want it. No, it's about crucifying my flesh and laying down my life for Rachel. And so, but what I'm saying is he prepared me for that season ahead of time through these small lead-ins and gave me opportunities. I'll give you an example. I remember one night there was a group of people that were going out to the movies, and I just had this small inkling on the inside, don't go to the movies tonight, stay home and pray. I was like, I want to go to the movies, you know what I mean? And I just told the group, I was like, I T9 texted them, you know what I mean? So that means I hit the keyboard a whole bunch.
The good old days.
Just to say I'm not going, took 18 presses
10 minutes later.
Yeah, exactly. And told them, no, I'm just going to stay in. And not only was it just a wonderful night in the presence of God, I remember it just right in that apartment right over there. It was a wonderful night in the presence of God, but also he was teaching me. Like, you don't always get to do what you want to do. Like, when you're a husband, you're not always going to get to do what you want to do. When you're a father, you're not always going to get to do what you want to do. So I'm preparing you for, and even us as ministers, you don't always get to do what you want to do.
Sure.
But he's like preparing us for that season so we don't go into those seasons unequipped. Who comes to mind is David. Out there in with the sheep in the shepherd's field, protecting them
Yeah.
from the lion and the bear. Why? So when he got to Goliath, he wasn't unprepared.
Yeah.
That's not the first time he's been in that situation. Maybe
So
it was
good.
the first time he's been in that situation with a giant and
Sure.
a person and a human being, but not the first time he's been in the situation of protecting the sheep of Israel.
Yeah.
Right? Not the first time he's been in the position of protecting the Father's sheep. He's been there many times with many adversaries, and he knew how to overcome it
Yeah.
because God prepared him. And so if we will listen to that small, still voice, we will have these times of preparation. So when we come into a season of maybe even something that's unexpected or a season of something we were expecting, marriage, children, ministry, career, whatever it is, we're prepared for that. Now, you can't always be fully prepared,
Sure.
Yeah.
but you're more prepared than you would have been if you didn't listen.
Yeah. That's good.
Amen.
It's funny. I lost my wallet yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it had been missing for like 2 days. But the first day I was like, I don't need it. It's fine. But then I started to need it. And
I don't need to buy
also-
anything today.
Well, and
I don't
'cause
need
in
to
the-
drive.
In the back of my mind, I was like, I know where it is. And so my wife texted me something, and I was like, hey, can you just check your car? Like, can you get my wallet out of your car? Because that's what I thought it was. So
Mhm.
it wasn't missing.
Mm.
I just didn't have it. And I'm like, it's fine. Well, then it wasn't in her car. And so then I started freaking out, like, where is this wallet at? Because that, of course, has all my cards in it. It has my company card in it. I need my company card in the
Those
next
Lulu
couple of
bucks.
weeks because I'm about to leave. And so I was like, I was freaking out. And so I started looking everywhere. I was searching all over the house. I was going through my brain like, okay, let me retrace my steps. I was going back through my bank things to see when the last time I used it. And every time I walked by my bed, I had this feeling of like, look there. And so I kind of just like shuffled the sheets and I was like, it's not here. And so I kept looking and I was texting people like, hey, can you check my cubby at work? Maybe it's in there. I texted someone like that worked at this bank that we were at this event in this conference room at on Saturday. I'm like, hey, can you go check that room? And I went yesterday, I got 2 fillings, and all this is related. I had time to just sit, and I was focused on the fact that I was like getting all these fillings, and well, I only got 2, but I was, I had time to slow down. I wasn't focused on where my wallet was. I was still slightly stressed in the back of my mind. My wife had been praying, and she was like, you're going to find it today. It's going to be fine. And I'm like, it's not, I haven't found it yet. Anyways, I get home from my fillings, and I walk by my bed, and I just had this feeling like, just look in your bed. So I stripped the whole thing, and there was like a pair of shorts like underneath like 2 layers of blankets just in the middle of the bed, and my wallet was in like the pocket. And I was just like, oh, it was literally right here this
Wow.
whole
You've been
time.
sleeping with that wallet for days.
I scoured so many people, like texting them, like look
Oh,
around. I
man.
was frantic. I was retracing my steps, and every time I walked by the bed, I had this feeling of like look in the bed. And
Yeah.
like I said, I shuffled through it. I didn't like take a moment. I was too focused. And it's so funny because I texted Lauren and I was like a picture of my wallet and I was like, I found it. And I just stopped and I was like, I repented because at that
Yeah,
point
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
you told me to look in the bed
Right.
and I just wasn't listening. And so I say that to say like, it's just funny because even in that's a small detail.
Yeah.
I can replace all the cards. It's really, it's a hassle, but
It
it's
is.
not that big of a deal. But he was telling me the whole time, like, just check the bed.
Yeah.
And I was too focused on what he was trying to fix that I wasn't focused on how to fix it, which was just listening to him.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy.
Which is interesting because like lots of times I feel like people don't see that as what it really is. It's so supernatural. I mean, if you really think about it, I mean, we have this supernatural, amazing creator, God of the universe, who is speaking to us, maybe not by an audible voice,
Yeah.
but ministering to our
Sure.
heart, giving us this unction, giving us this desire, giving us this persuasion, if you will. And it's just this small, still voice on the inside of us. And it's so supernatural that I think sometimes we think it has to be a Moses burning bush. It has to be, fire on the mountain. It has to be all this stuff in order for it to be supernatural. But if we'll look at it, like this is just God talking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, how supernatural is that? How amazing is that? And that's so wonderfully amazing
Yeah.
that it's just, I don't know. I don't want to downplay anything that God does because
Yeah.
it's all supernatural.
Yeah. And I think it's also like we want and believe that God only wants to help us with the big things. You know what I mean? Like God only speaks to us when we have to deliver a sermon or when we have to speak to someone about him. But it's
Yeah.
like, no, He wants to help you find your wallet.
Yes.
He wants to have you, move your car mirror so
That's
that way
it.
your wife isn't inconvenienced when she backs out the car. Like, he wants to help you how to take care of your body or just
Yeah.
how to treat others, be kind, and just live your life in a good way. Like, God just wants to do this life with you,
He
and he wants to be
does.
involved. And I think that to
That's
me
it.
is so much more beautiful if we just allow him to be a part of every aspect of our
Everything,
life.
yes.
And I think that that's what's great is that he wants to be, and if we will allow him to be, he continues to speak as long as we listen.
And that's the thing. Like, I love how you said that. He just wants to be involved.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, as a parent, when my boys, like Samuel came out of the room last night and he sat down, he's like, I just want to chat with you. It's so
Aw.
funny the way he articulates
So
things.
cute.
Like, he's like, can we chat? And I'm like, yeah, of course we can chat. You
That
know
sounds
what I
like
mean?
something a dad would say to
I
his son. Like, let me
know.
chat
Well,
with you, son.
Samuel's like a
I know.
70-year-old man trapped in a 14-year-old body. He's just so funny. He's like the guy on the porch that's yelling at the kids to get off his lawn.
Get off my lawn.
So good. And so, but he's like, we just want to chat. But as a parent, it was just like, he wants me to be involved in his life. He wants to talk with me. He wants to share this moment. And like, I could picture God
the goal.
as the perfect parent being the same way when his children come to him like, hey, let's chat, and I just want to talk to you. I just want you to be involved. And it's about letting him show you where your wallet is, about letting him show you, because those aren't coincidences
Yeah.
as many
Oh, no.
naturally minded people would think so, but these aren't coincidences. These are lead-ins of the Holy Spirit, who is part of this triune God that we serve. This is unction from the Holy One showing us how to improve our day and how
Yeah.
to make our life better and easier. And he wants to do that in every detail, big and small, and everything in between.
Yeah.
And if we'll allow him to do it, that is what I believe is one of the many steps that we take to experience the Zoe, the God kind and quality of life, is when we let him lead us in all the details,
Yeah.
big and small. When we relinquish control, and that's what, Galatians chapter 5, verse
Yeah.
22, out of the New Living Translation says, when the Holy Spirit controls your life, then he'll produce these fruits. And
Yeah.
all the fruits, the 9 fruits he goes on to list there, every single one of them makes your life better.
Yeah. Yeah.
None of it takes away from your quality of life. It all makes your life better. But it's about allowing him to have control and letting him be involved in the big moments, the small moments, every moment in between, and just letting God be there to do life with you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why Jesus died, is so we could be in this relationship. And what good is a relationship if you're not together?
Yeah.
Dang.
What good is a marriage if you're apart from each other and you have no fellowship and you have no time together? And that's what we are. We're the bride of Christ, and we're in a marriage with him. And marriages require fellowship. They require time together. They require just being together. And when we do that with God, as we do with our spouses naturally, when we do that with God, everything just gets that much better, because he can show us things that in the natural mind we never would know.
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. What an advantage to have God. Rachel and I talk about it a lot, but
It's not fair.
I want everybody to go
Yeah.
through life
Yeah.
with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's such an advantage.
Yeah.
Because one thing we know is life comes to all of us,
Yeah.
and life's not always fair, and life's
Yeah.
not always fun. But what an advantage when I have these obstacles that come up, and I've got like this wonderful relationship with God where I can be like, this terrible thing came up, but this is what his word said, and
Yeah.
this is how he's going to fix it, how he's already fixed it, if I'll just trust in him. And that's such, it's like now we can face anything. It's not fun on the flesh
Sure.
or the mind, and it's not fun in the natural, but we can go through anything, and we just know it's going to be okay, because
Yeah.
I'm in this marriage with someone who's so much greater than me. I'm in this marriage with somebody who's going to work in all these details and show me how to navigate these waters, because he's always speaking to me, always guiding me, always leading me, always wanting fellowship with me. And what an advantage that is to my life and to the life of those around me.
So good.
So good.
We have this God that believes in us. And I think that is so beautiful for me, is that like no matter how hard my day is or how bad I might feel, like maybe if I didn't do everything perfectly, at the end of the day God still believes in me and is there for me and wants to help me be better at my life in the next day. And that's so comforting and reassuring, that even when I've messed up, he's still speaking to me. He hasn't left
Yes.
my side, and he wants to help me improve. And I think that if we can take advantage of that voice and take advantage of that relationship, it makes the hard days easier, because we know that we can have an opportunity the next day to do better with him.
Hmm.
And so I don't know who's listening right now that maybe, you've fallen short in a lot of ways. Just take comfort in knowing that God still believes in you.
Yeah.
And he sent his son to die for you because he believed in you so much. And
Yeah.
he speaks to you today because he believes in you so much. And so take advantage of this relationship that you now have with your God, your Father, to do this life with. And don't let any moment, fall out of your grasp just because you're not willing to listen. If he speaks to you, it's for a good reason.
And what's so cool about that, about what you're saying about God believing in us, it just immediately, maybe because it's what I'm reading and thinking about right now, but I think about like the Gospel of Mark. And maybe a lot of people don't know this, but the Gospel of Mark was written by John Mark, and it's just called Mark's Gospel. But who is John Mark? He is the guy that was on a missionary journey with the Apostle Paul. In the middle of doing the work of God, in the middle of being on this missionary journey, he gave up and went home. And so much so that it kind of severed the relationship between him and Paul, that the next time Paul went out on a missionary journey, Mark was like, hey, I want to go. And Paul was like, no, you're not going with me, bro, because you ditched it last time.
You're a quitter.
You're a quitter. You failed.
Yeah.
And I don't want any
Yeah.
part of that. Now, we do see restoration later
Sure,
on. Paul
sure.
takes him on his third missionary journey, and in the second missionary journey, he goes with Barnabas, who I think is like his uncle or some sort of family member. But the point is, God still used him to write the book of Mark.
Yeah.
One of the best books of the Bible, like the shortest gospel we have, but one of the best gospels. And like the first part of it talks about the identity of Christ, and the second part of it talks about the mission of Christ. But it's amazing how God used Mark to write that,
Yeah.
who we as natural men will be like, this dude's a failure. He quit on serving God.
Yeah. It was the first gospel that was written too, like at least historically. So he wrote the very first one.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
That he was used that way,
Yeah.
as lots of times people will be like, you're a quitter of the faith. So like
Yeah.
you're saying, God believes in us. He understands that we are not perfect, that we are flawed. And so he sent Jesus to fix that and to help us through that. But no matter what you've done or what you've gone through, if you've made a mistake, God's not giving up on you.
Yeah.
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 And he still wants to use you in your life to be light in this dark world. He wants to perfect everything that concerns you. He wants you to have Zoe, the God kind and quality of life.
Yeah.
But it's about just getting back up and saying, you know what, maybe I did miss the mark here. Maybe I did give up halfway through this battle and I fell short. But I'm just going to come back to you and say,
Yeah.
okay, let's get it right and let's move forward.
Yeah.
What do you have for me today?
Hmm.
And I think that's one thing about Christianity that lots of times gets overlooked. And Apostle Paul talked about this, but perseverance. Like, I may have failed today, but tomorrow I'm going to get up and I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
It's about that tenacity of saying, you know what, I'm not giving up on this life
Yeah.
of faith. I'm not giving up on being a Christian. I'm going to continue to press on towards the mark, this high calling of God. I'm going to strive to be a better Christian, a better disciple, a better follower of Jesus. Tomorrow I'm going to keep going no matter what happened. And I think we see that in the Old Testament and the New Testament alike about people who followed God, who fell short, but said, you know what, I'm coming back and this is the way. I think of Solomon, who is known for building the house of God, fulfilling his father's command, David, to build a place for God. But then yet Solomon screwed up majorly. Dude, he had like 700 wives and like 1,600 concubines. I don't even know how homie was keeping up with none of that. I mean, that's just wild to me.
That dude's calendar must have just been full.
What a mess, man. All the anniversaries. But the point is God told him not to do that. This is where we get those scriptures about being unequally yoked, because he fell in love and married people who did not believe what he believed. And the Bible tells us that he ended up turning away from the true God and started worshiping all these idols and started building places for them on the mountains and hills and all this other stuff. So God told him, okay, you've sinned against me and now I have to strip the kingdom from you, right? But at the end of Ecclesiastes, which a lot of people believe that Solomon wrote, at the very end, he said, but this is one thing you do, fear God and obey his commands. So it's like he even knew I messed up here
Yeah.
and I got away from some things, but this is what I'm coming back to is the most valuable thing.
Yeah.
Fear God and obey his commands.
Amen.
And so it's like he knows doing life with God is the best way to do life.
Amen. Yeah.
And I'm not going to let my failures of whatever I did in the middle of from building the house to finishing, I'm not going to let that keep me from this truth of I'm supposed to be in this relationship with him. I'm supposed to fear him and obey him. And that's the most important thing I can do with my life because it makes everything around me better.
So good.
right? And I think that's
Amen.
the truth that we all know.
Amen.
If all fear God and obey God, am I perfect at it? No, but none of us are. But if all fear God and obey God, it makes everything around me better. It makes my family better, it makes Robert better, it makes my children better, it makes my ministry better, it makes my job better, it makes me a better friend. It increases me because anytime I become more like him, everything instantly gets better. Because
So
he's
good.
perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's amazing. And he's loving. And he's kind. And he's merciful. And he's gracious. He's every good adjective that you have to explain him. That's who he is. So if I can become more like that in just a little way, then how much better does everything else get around me?
Yeah.
And so it's about, okay, I may have missed it here, but you know what? I have this tenacity. I have this perseverance. I have this, I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to quit because I know that doing life with God is the best way to do life.
More God, more better.
Oh my gosh.
I was trying hard, and like it's just stuck in my head. I was like, more butter, more better. More God, more better.
So good. That's so right, though. We're making a shirt.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to be Jesus holding a stick of butter, and it's going to
my
say,
gosh.
more God, more butter.
God
So
butter.
good. God butter.
The oil. Oh my gosh.
Woo! We cooking now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So,
OMG.
yeah. Listen for God's voice in your life today.
Do life
You
with
need
him.
More of his voice in your life. Listen to that voice.
Amen.
Do life with him, and it's all going to be more better. We love you guys so much. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Woo!